last year, and I go, and Shefty could probably talk to this a little bit, but did Denver absolutely love Bo Nix, or did they really like him? Did Minnesota, no questions asked, love J.J. McCarthy, or did they really like him? And so the love versus like thing I just find is interesting, because at some point you need a good player. You need a good player to at least have a chance.
Well, Dan, let me say this. When you are drafting a quarterback, you are marrying him. And you don't marry a partner that you like. You marry a partner that you love. And the Denver Broncos didn't like Bo Nix. They loved Bo Nix.
Exactly. And then he goes on and talks about, J.J. McCarthy and other people. And I was thinking about this. I wanted to make this video before, but the media just fails to really ever appreciate when they don't have all the answers, or when reality is different from what their perception initially was. And I love Dan Orlovsky, so this isn't about Dan Orlovsky, but this is still continues to be a lot of these takes surrounding Bo Nix. Now, I think as fans watching these games and stuff like that, you're going to get predictions wrong. Every single person watching this video who's ever watched any football game or any sporting event has felt that, Team A was going to beat Team B. And at least once in your life, you predicted wrong. You felt Team A was going to win and Team B won instead, right? Like it's unless you're batting 100, then, which obviously is not going to happen. So everyone understands you're going to get those things wrong, especially if you're in the media, because like everyone knows that you felt, this team was going to win and then they don't win. But when it comes to like, player evaluation or the perception of something, people still struggle to wrestle with that. I mean, just look no further. They still struggled when the Eagles beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. People were trying to figure out, like, how could that have happened? Because I didn't think that was going to happen. And they're like, oh, the offensive line, the defense. Like, they just couldn't just accept that the Eagles were clearly the significantly better team. And yet, because of your own perceptions, because of your own biases, you could not look beyond that and see the reality of how that game could have potentially unfolded. And it's the same thing now with Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. It's like, I don't believe that Bo Nix is really that great of a quarterback. Therefore, there's no way that the Denver Broncos think that he's really that great of a quarterback. So therefore, they don't love him. And I made videos where like it was clear that the Denver Broncos loved Bo Nix, and that Sean Payton, there was the whispers of coming out that like Sean Payton, he thinks that is their Mahomes, that like, Sean Payton felt like he could have had Mahomes before, and he felt that he missed out, and that's who Bo Nix is for him. That if they had the number 1 overall pick, they were still picking Bo Nix. And, a lot of people were like, oh, there's no way. And a lot of people kind of just jumped to the Caleb Williams train. And it was like, it's got to be Caleb. And this was before Jane Daniels honestly really had a lot of energy behind him. And it's just like, no, like this is the conclusion that Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos drew. That Bo Nix was their guy, is their guy. And yet people still fail to accept that. And I remember even watching a clip, I guess probably like a month or so after the season, people were like, God, it was such a surprise what Bo Nix did in with the Broncos. And it's just like, no, it was not. Like, no, it was not. It was a surprise for you, maybe, because you reached a conclusion about someone like Bo and the Denver Broncos, and it was the wrong conclusion, and you stayed firm in that conclusion. So yes, it was surprising to you. Right? Don't act like it surprised the NFL, that it surprised the league. You really think Sean Payton was surprised? He was like, whoa, I didn't think Bo Nix was going to be a starting quarterback. He just drafted him just for fun. Like, no. And I understand what Orlovsky's even saying, right? Like, you do need a quarterback. If there's not a quarterback that you love, the next best thing is someone that you like. And you know what? A lot of people marry people that they just like instead of love. And they live happily ever after. They just do. Like, it's just, there's plenty of people who marry someone that they love and they get divorced. So like the marriage analogy is not 100% perfect, quite frankly. You know, they make the argument that you should just marry a you know, someone who you think is your close friend, where there's less, you know, spark and emotional intensity, and someone who you just truly respect and you actually have a companionship with, because the intense love, the intense feelings of all of that, that fades over time. You know, it's why more friends stay together longer than more relationships, right? So you know, not to get too lost in the analogies here, but it just always, I just always find it funny that people are still kind of questioning, you know, they still look at a conclusion, you know, the aftermath of something through their original wrong lens that they drew before we had the rest of the information. And it's like, that's where you got to just let that go and move on. You could believe that the Kansas City Chiefs were going to beat the Philadelphia Eagles and that they were the better team. But after you saw everything, your conclusion would be, no, the Eagles are just the better team. Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't see it coming, but clearly the Eagles were better. And now let me try to figure out why I was so wrong in my conclusion. You could believe that Bo Nix was not going to be that great of a quarterback and that the Broncos are not that excited about him, but that clearly was wrong. Because like I said, even when Sean Payton drafted Bo Nix, they went and they showed his, you know, they did this on First Things First, not here, but they tried to judge Sean Payton's body language. And they're like, does that really look like a guy that thinks that he just drafted the next Patrick Mahomes or something? And it was just like, you know, like, again, we're getting lost in it right now. We're getting way lost in it. And to be fair, I'm pretty sure Dan Orlovsky was pro Bo Nix going into this draft. Like, I think you get into the last draft. Like, I'm pretty sure he was actually very high on Bo Nix. He talked about some of the things that he needed to work on, and I remember giving some pushback on that. I think he was kind of criticizing maybe some of his short throws. I forget, but he definitely wasn't anti-Bo Nix. He definitely wasn't like, oh, Bo Nix is not good, I want to draft him. Like, he was definitely not anti-Bo Nix. But it's just still weird to kind of frame this in a way of like, you know, oh, did the Broncos just like Bo Nix? When all reports were that, you know, they loved Bo Nix, and people, to the point where people thought, was it maybe a smoke screen? Are we getting misleading stuff here? Like, it was like, nah, I remember those conversations got a little crazy, and you had a lot of people that kept trying to bring down the potential of Bo Nix, and you know, Bo Nix balled, man. So yeah, I just I always find it fascinating to see how people reconcile their conclusions about something when it was wrong, and how they try to make sense of it. Because, you know, when you're wrong, trying to make sense of it can be tricky, and you can either continue to deceive yourself, then there's no growth, or you can acknowledge where you were wrong and try to learn from it. And I'm not going to act like I always do, you know, one or the other, but like I do try my best to try to figure out, okay, like I don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to be this great quarterback. Personally, that's my conclusion right now for various reasons. And if that ends up being wrong, and if Shedeur ends up balling, ends up being a top 5 quarterback, top 10 quarterback, I'm gonna have to go back and be like, where was I misled? Where did I mislead myself? How did I get this wrong? Did I consider some of these things that don't matter as much? Did I put too much weight for them? You know, did I not really, you know, did I not give him enough credit for some of the success that he had college, and I was explaining things away with, you know, luck or, you know, whatever it may be? Like, I would have to try to figure it out so that I don't repeat that same mistake again moving forward. But, you know, that takes a lot more work, and people in the media, and again, this is not Dan Orlovsky. I really don't think this is not Dan Orlovsky at all. This is just me talking about the media as a whole. But the media tries to sell a lot of personalities, not the media as a whole, but a lot of the personalities out there try to sell themselves as being the guy who's right. It's like, I'm always right. Even on the original, you know, Undisputed with Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless, they had the posters like in their building that was like, you know, Shannon, it said like never wrong, and Skip, it was always right or something. And it's just like, you know, that's not the reality. And when I very first started this channel, it was like, I'm not trying to build a following based on me like always being right, or like, come to me, watch my channel because like I'm gonna give you, I'm always right, I always got all the answers, because like I don't. I try to explore them. I try to figure them out. I try to talk to other people. I try to open up the door for other people's opinions and views and have that shape my own thoughts and views and opinions and, you know, and trying to reach a conclusion kind of collectively. But, you know, when you're still filtering the world through an incorrect lens based on an incorrect conclusion that you drew prior, that's how you just continue to get further and further from the reality. It's like playing a game of telephone, right? When you're whispering down the lane or whatever. Like it just gets messier and messier and messier. And then you get random takes of like, did the Broncos really like Bo Nix? Or was Bo Nix really that good of a quarterback this season? Or, you know, I think the Broncos are kind of happy that they had some success with Bo Nix, but like, are they really happy? Did they really show him enough? Like Nick Wright coming out saying, if I was the Broncos, I would be disappointed with the season that Bo, like he literally said if JJ McCarthy played like Bo Nix, I would be Minnesota Vikings fans should be disappointed. And it's like, that's how you just get further and further from the truth. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos? And, you know, just the still confusion around him as a quarterback. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.